What's up, fellas? In the first of today's videos, we're going to be looking at Blake Griffin and the situation around him. We kind of did a whole video about, him being bought out from Detroit, where he could possibly go, and it turns out he is going to be a member of the Brooklyn Nets, which is kind of ridiculous to say and to think about considering all the other talent they already have on this roster. But in this video, we're going to be taking a look at exactly what his role is going to be in Brooklyn, how much of an impact this is actually going to have on their team, and just kind of how he's going to fit now on a Nets team with so much other talent. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel, so it's most consistent NBA content on YouTube. If you're new here, by the way, what's up? My name is Tucker. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well, and check me out at various socials in a link tree down in the description below. With those things said, let's talk about Blake. So one thing I want to go ahead and make clear is, this was already by most people's definition a quote-unquote super team, and as impactful as adding Blake can be, as we'll talk about throughout the video, I don't think that this is some kind of unfair addition. I don't think that they just added a fourth all-star caliber guy to this roster, at least not in this moment. Blake Griffin is a player that last year played 18 games total, and to this point this year has played 20 games. And in none of those 38 games has he looked remotely close to the form that he showed a few years ago in which he made an All-NBA team. Blake is not the same level player from an athleticism standpoint that he was a couple of years ago. He's had too many lower body injuries. He has just not been allowed to get too much of a rhythm, and there's a reason why Detroit, who does not have any talent at all on the roster, basically with the exception of, a handful of players, decided to buy him out. There's a reason why they decided that he wasn't a part of their future anymore, and it's because there are real questions about whether or not Blake can be a consistent, productive NBA player moving forward. However, on a roster like Brooklyn that already has so many other, luxuries, especially offensively, it's never a bad idea to bring in someone like Blake because he can be a significant ceiling raiser. Let's look at his season from a couple of years ago that I'm talking about, the last really good Blake season we had. I kind of thought things were over for him before this because he was dealing with some injury stuff, but then he came back and had an unbelievable season. Averaged almost 25 points per game, was one of the better big man assist guys in the league as well, around 5.5 per game, and shot 36% from three on 7 attempts per game. I think that's what really unlocked that particular season for Blake. It's something that we'd wanted to see from him for a long, long time, going back to those Lob City Clippers where, him and DeAndre in the front court didn't always fit super well together. And if he ever figured out a way to make shots from three-point range, that obviously would change things. And a couple years ago, it's not like he was shooting 40%, but 36 on 7 attempts per game is nothing to, to shake your head out, especially, coming from a big guy. And so that was a season where we really thought, wait, maybe there's a latter part of this career here for Blake that we didn't think was going to happen because of all the injury stuff. Now, as I said, since then, he's played 38 regular season games. He has not looked particularly good in basically any of them. But this role in Brooklyn, this fit in Brooklyn is really intriguing for me for a couple of reasons. One, they've already mentioned that he's going to be, in their eyes, a small ball 5 off the bench, which is a really interesting role because I think a lot of people just assumed, let's pencil him into the starting group. Let's go, Kyrie, Harden, Durant, Blake, and DeAndre. Like, there's our all-star, all big name starting 5. And realistically, they looked at it and said, you know what? We already have so much scoring. We already have so much of what Blake can do in the starting lineup. Let's improve our bench unit by having him be a part of that. And the best way to do that is to have him run at the 5 spot. And I actually think that this can work really, really well. We're probably at the point in Blake's career where 20 to 25 minutes off the bench every night is pretty much an ideal scenario for him. He can be out there in the second unit with one of the other stars, KD, Harden, Kyrie. What'll probably end up happening is you'll have, the starters play and then Harden will come out first. You'll have Kyrie and KD out there and then those two will swap. Harden will come back in. Blake will come in and we'll see a lot of Harden-Blake pick and roll, which would be really, really interesting. I can promise you Blake is going to finally get a dunk here pretty soon with Brooklyn. But that's such an interesting role because it allows him to not have too much of an offensive burden. He can make shots from the outside if they're made available. He can run a lot of ball screens with James Harden. And as I continue to mention every time I talk about Blake Griffin, this guy can really pass the basketball. And that stuff hasn't gone away just because of injuries. Is he a little bit rusty? Yes. But this guy can pass. So if you want to try and, double any of the stars and he can short roll and kind of make some plays out of the ball screens there. He can attack some closeouts. There's a lot of different things that Blake can do that I think are really conducive to a second unit type role. And as a result, I do think this is a significant upgrade to their roster with the caveat that it is as long as Blake can stay healthy. Because I think that the one thing kind of overall this is Blake can play once a week and look really, really good. But if he's not on the floor consistently, they're not going to want to invest a ton of time in making sure that he is a huge part of the team, because you just can't deal with a guy coming in and out of the lineup all the time that would have as a significant role as Blake would. So assuming he can stay on the floor, I do think that this is a significant addition. I don't think it's an all-star level addition, but with the role specifically that Brooklyn envisions for Blake, I think is pretty much perfect for him at this point in his career. Now, offensively, again, assuming he's healthy, all those things sound fine. Defensively, that's kind of always been the issue with Blake in terms of playing him at the small ball five, is even earlier in his career when he's, a much better athlete than he is right now, he still never was great at the five, or even the idea of him at the five wasn't great. Because yes, he has the athleticism and the quickness, but he's not a great rim protector because he doesn't have great length. And so he's truly like 6'9", 6'10", and yes, a great athlete back in the day, but doesn't have the kind of wingspan to be a truly disruptive player at the rim, or in the passing lanes and things like that. Now, to be fair, Brooklyn's been doing just fine without any kind of real rim protection anyway. But, if he really wants to be out there and be a small ball five, there's a possibility of him being absolutely punished, by other fives defensively. In terms of the big man rotation for Brooklyn as a whole, I'm not convinced that it's going to be entirely small ball 5 minutes for Blake. I think that's what they're envisioning, but I think Nick Claxton is good enough to get minutes at the 5 spot and really provide a significant amount of athleticism. And between him and DeAndre and Blake, all the 5 minutes are probably going to be sent there, towards all 3 of those guys. But I would imagine we'll probably see some Blake at the 4 stuff off the bench as well. And who knows? Maybe we'll end up seeing Blake in the end game unit. You know what I mean? Like, if he's someone that can shoot 36% from 3, maybe it is Kyrie, Joe Harris, KD, James Harden, and Blake at the end of these games. That would be kind of a ridiculous lineup. I think at the end of the day, that's the point about Blake, is the Nets don't necessarily need him. They're one of the best teams in the East, even without this addition. They've been really good, even without Kevin Durant over the last 10 to 15 games. And they don't have to count on anything from Blake. But if he can provide them anything, I think it's actually a relatively significant ceiling raiser. I don't think it's to the point where it makes anything completely unfair. This is the overriding super team in the entire league. I think Brooklyn is really, really good. I think they were really good before they brought in Blake. And if they get a consistently productive Blake, especially off the bench, if Blake is averaging like 15 off the bench and he's shooting 36% from 3, they've already given up so many assets and kind of depleted so much of their depth that anybody like that can provide that kind of value in the second unit raises the ceiling of this group significantly, in addition to the way that he could potentially fit into lineups with the other stars, whether that be at the beginning or at the end of games. Now, what I'm anticipating for Blake in this Nets tenure is ideally he's healthy, first and foremost. And then he kind of eases his way into this second unit role. It's going to be an adjustment. It's never something that he's really had to figure out, how to play well in a game coming off the bench and how to play with the second unit guys. But ideally, he's out there with one of the other stars that can create shots for him. He can work a little bit in the post. He can make some jump shots. He can attack the rim a little bit. And as he gets more and more comfortable and he raises his confidence up, you'll probably start to see him more towards the end of games. Maybe not in the end game lineup, but as we get closer to the end of games, he gets more and more run. And by the time we get to the postseason, again, assuming Blake is healthy, he could actually have a significant impact on this roster. Again, I would pump the brakes on this idea that they just added an all-star off the waiver wire, because buyout guys, typically are not incredibly impactful as we get to the postseason. But as I mentioned in the video the other day, I'm not sure we've ever seen a buyout quite like this. I think Blake still has some left in the tank, and the only thing that would hold him back from being some kind of a contributor to this Nets team would be health, and it would be injuries. So assuming he can stay healthy, Blake is a really interesting addition and someone that I'm incredibly intrigued to see what he looks like on this team. Also, once Kevin Durant comes back, I think it's going to be such an interesting role. So I don't think they just added all NBA caliber Blake, but I do think that he is a ceiling raiser for a group that increasingly looks like a real legit championship contender, potentially the biggest contender in the Eastern Conference. So I have no details on when Blake's first game would potentially be, because it takes longer for guys to, join the team because of all the new protocols and rules and things like that. But ultimately, I'm really, really interested. We'll see what Blake looks like. I'm excited, man. I'm amped. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the first video of the day, and I thank you guys very much for watching. If you're looking for a second video of the day for me, it's finally going to be a trade machine. I've pushed it back a couple of times. We've got a San Antonio Spurs trade machine coming up later today with a couple of really, really interesting deals in it. So be on the lookout for that. If you enjoyed the videos, make sure to like them. Make sure to check out more videos from me with the boxes on screen as well as on the channel as a whole. As I said in the beginning, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.